Your 3-year-old can't write their name yet. You see other kids at playgroup already counting to 20. There's a preschool down the street advertising phonics for toddlers. And suddenly you're wondering, are we falling behind? Should I be drilling letters every morning? Buying those workbooks everyone's talking about? Here's what I need you to hear. Before your child turns 5, the alphabet doesn't matter. Numbers don't matter. What actually determines whether they'll thrive in school, build meaningful friendships, handle failure, and become confident adults? It's something completely different, something you already have access to, something that costs nothing but changes everything. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why pushing academics early might actually be holding your child back. While the one thing I'm about to show you builds the foundation that makes all learning effortless later. Let's start with what we got wrong. We're living through an achievement panic. Parents are enrolling toddlers in early reading programs, buying flashcard subscriptions, spending weekends on worksheets, all because we've been told early equals better. That if your child recognizes letters at 2, they're gifted. If they're reading by 4, they're set for life. But watch what happens when researchers actually track these children long term. A comprehensive study followed kids from preschool through elementary school. Half the group learned to read at age 4, the other half learned at age 6. By third grade, there was no difference in reading ability. None. The early readers didn't stay ahead. The late starters caught up completely. So, where did all that extra practice go? Here's what the research reveals. Early academic drilling doesn't build intelligence, it builds test performance. And there's a massive difference. A child who can recite the alphabet at 2 has memorized sounds, but a child who feels emotionally secure, who plays freely, who experiences responsive caregiving, their brain is building something far more powerful. Neural architecture, the actual wiring that determines how they think, how they regulate emotion, how they solve problems for the rest of their lives. Think about it like building a house. You can install beautiful windows and fancy fixtures early, but if the foundation is weak, the house collapses. Your child's brain works the same way. Academic skills are the windows, emotional security is the foundation, and you can't skip the foundation. Here's what actually happens in a developing brain before age 5. Every second, and I mean every single second, your child's brain forms over 1 million new neural connections. That's more connections in one morning than most adults form in a month. But those connections don't form randomly. They form in response to experience. When your child reaches for you and you respond consistently, you're building neural pathways for trust. When they fall and you comfort them calmly, you're building pathways for emotional regulation. When they play without interruption, they're building executive function skills, the cognitive abilities that predict success better than any early reading advantage. But here's the part that might sting a little. When we push academics too early, we're actually stealing time from the experiences that build this foundation. Every minute spent on flashcards is a minute not spent on the floor building with blocks. Every worksheet is time not exploring outside. Every drilling session is connection time lost. And the brain prioritizes survival over achievement. When a child feels pressure, even subtle pressure to perform, their stress system activates. Cortisol floods their system. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for learning, essentially shuts down. You can't force brain development through anxiety. So, what do children under 5 actually need? 3 things, and I'm going to be very specific here because general advice doesn't help anyone. First, emotional safety. This is the non negotiable foundation. Your child needs to know they're loved unconditionally, not for what they achieve, not for how fast they learn, for who they are. Watch what happens when researchers study children raised with secure attachment versus those pushed toward early achievement. The securely attached children score higher on every measure that matters. Better problem solving, stronger friendships, more resilience after failure, higher motivation. They outperform the early achievers by every metric that predicts lifelong success. Because when a child feels safe, their brain opens to learning. When they feel pressured, it closes. It's neuroscience, not philosophy. Second, they need play, real play, not structured activities, not educational apps. Actual free, uninterrupted, imagination driven play, building with blocks until they collapse and trying again. Digging in dirt, pretending the couch is a spaceship, play that looks like they're doing nothing important. Cambridge University tracked children for years studying the impact of play on development. What they found was stunning. Children with more unstructured playtime showed significantly higher creativity, better self control, and stronger problem solving abilities. Not just in childhood, these advantages persisted into adolescence. Because play teaches what worksheets never can: how to try something, fail, and adjust, how to collaborate with others, how to regulate frustration, how to think flexibly. These are the skills that make school easy later, not memorized facts. Third, they need responsive relationships. This means when your child communicates, you respond. When they point at something, you name it. When they bring you a book, you read it. When they're upset, you're present. This back and forth, what researchers call serve and return interactions, this builds language faster than any program. It builds confidence. It builds the understanding that their voice matters, their thoughts have value, their emotions are valid. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but the kindergarten readiness checklist says my child needs to know their letters. They need to count to 10. They need to write their name. What if they're not ready? Here's what I want you to understand. School readiness isn't about academic skills, it's about emotional and social skills. Kindergarten teachers consistently report that children who struggle most aren't the ones who can't recognize letters. It's the ones who can't sit in circle time, share materials, or handle frustration when something's hard. A child who feels secure, who has practiced self regulation through play, who has built strong relationships, that child walks into kindergarten ready. They might not know their ABCs yet, but they know how to learn. And that's what actually matters. So, what does this look like practically? Let me give you 5 specific shifts you can make starting today. 1, talk to them constantly, not quiz them, talk with them. Narrate your day. We're folding the warm towels now. This one's blue, this one's soft. Can you feel how fluffy it is? This builds vocabulary naturally in context with emotional connection, 1,000 times more powerful than drilling words from cards. 2, follow their lead during play. When your child is building something with blocks, don't teach them how to do it better. Watch, appreciate, describe what you see. You're stacking them so carefully that tower is getting really tall. This builds their confidence and their ability to persist without constant adult direction. 3, validate emotions instead of correcting behavior first. When they're upset, before you fix it or lecture, just name it. You're really frustrated right now. You wanted that toy and your sister has it. That's hard. This single shift builds emotional intelligence faster than any program. 4, create space for boredom. I know that feels counterintuitive. But when children have unstructured time, when they're not being entertained or directed every minute, that's when creativity emerges. That's when problem solving develops. That's when they learn to manage themselves. 5, stop comparing. Your neighbor's kid reading at 3 doesn't predict their future. Your child who's focused on building elaborate train tracks is developing spatial reasoning that will help them in geometry years from now. Development isn't a race, it's a process. Now, you might be thinking, if I don't teach academics, won't my child actually fall behind? And this is the concern I hear most often. So let me address it directly. Children who start formal academics later don't fall behind. They catch up quickly because their brains are developmentally ready. Think about it. A 5-year-old learning to read has better fine motor control, longer attention span, and more advanced language comprehension than a 3-year-old. They learn faster because they're ready. Countries with the highest educational outcomes worldwide, Finland, Estonia, Singapore, they don't start formal academics until age 6 or 7, and their students consistently outperform countries that push early because they spent those early years building the foundation. Once that's solid, academic learning happens naturally. Here's what I need you to understand. You're not choosing between emotional health and academic success. You're choosing between forcing skills before the brain is ready versus building the foundation that makes all learning easier. The child who spent their early years feeling safe, playing freely, and connecting deeply, they walk into first grade with advantages that flashcards never provide. They have confidence, they have curiosity, they can handle challenge, they know how to think. So let's come back to where we started. Your 3-year-old who can't write their name yet. They don't need letter practice, they need you on the floor playing blocks. They need nature walks where they collect leaves. They need you reading books together, not to teach reading, but for the connection. They need messy art projects. They need time to just be 3 because you're not raising a test score, you're raising a human being who will need emotional strength, creative thinking, and relational skills. Far more than they'll need early letter recognition. The alphabet will come, numbers will come, reading will come, and when it does, it will be effortless because you built the foundation first. Your child doesn't need academic pressure. They need your presence. They need to know they're enough exactly as they are. They need childhood. And when you give them that, you give them everything.